March 2025 will be remembered as one of the most turbulent months in recent US weather history. A persistent storm system unleashed its wrath throughout the nation, bringing a lethal combination of intense tornadoes, blazing wildfires, and paralyzing blizzards, all simultaneously. From the heartland to the East Coast, nature's fury left a trail of widespread destruction, taking dozens of lives, leveling homes, and displacing thousands. Imagine waking up to the sound of sirens screaming as a huge tornado bears down on your city. Then discover that across the country, towering walls of flame are engulfing neighborhoods and blinding snowstorms are closing highways. It sounds like a disaster film, but it was the bitter truth for millions of Americans. What triggered this record-breaking string of catastrophes? How did people react to the pandemonium? And what does it portend for the future of severe weather events? In this video, we'll dissect the astonishing facts of this storm system and expose the science behind these lethal forces of nature. Stay tuned, as this is one storm you won't believe. The March 14th to 15th, 2025 weekend witnessed one of the deadliest tornado outbreaks in living memory. More than 100 twisters ravaged the Midwest and southern U.S. states, such as Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, and Kentucky, were directly affected by these behemoths storms. Entire towns were reduced to rubble, and families were left homeless. Meteorologists had been monitoring a quickly strengthening storm system driven by an unusual blend of warm, humid Gulf air colliding with a distinct cold front. The ideal storm of atmospheric instability provided the potential for an explosive outbreak of tornadoes, some of which reached the EF4 level, with winds exceeding 170 miles per hour. Diaz, Arkansas was one of the worst affected, with two EF4 tornadoes tearing through the tiny town within hours of one another. Houses were leveled to the ground, power lines snapped like branches, and cars were flung about like toys. Residents barely had time to catch their breath between storms, and rescue workers worked through the night to dig out those trapped under the wreckage. In Paragould, Arkansas, the Drops had a frightening déjà vu when an EF2 tornado ripped through their neighborhood, barely a year after the previous one. Packing 125-mile-per-hour winds, the twister destroyed more than 160 houses, including the Drops' newly rebuilt home. They somehow survived, but the psychological toll was overwhelming. "We had just started feeling safe again, and now we're back to square one," said Sarah Drope, holding back tears as she surveyed the wreckage. Based on the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, out of 100 initial reports of tornadoes, approximately 65 are verified upon investigation. This indicates that March 2025 may be recorded as one of the most prolific tornado months in history. The extent of the damage is still being estimated, but preliminary estimates indicate losses of over $1.5 billion. For others, the horror is far from over. With tornado season only just starting, experts predict that further outbreaks are imminent. The question now is, how can communities prepare for the next storm before it's too late? While the Midwest took a pounding from tornadoes, the Carolinas experienced a vastly different but just as deadly threat: wildfires burning out of control. Carolina wildfires have erupted into a crisis, with abnormally warm weather, dry humidity, and high winds igniting rapidly spreading blazes. In North Carolina, fires broke out in Polk County and burned more than 1,100 acres of forest land. Forced evacuations were issued as the fire edged toward houses, buildings, and sections of the Blue Ridge Parkway. Firefighters labored around the clock, but changing winds complicated containment efforts immensely. The rugged Appalachian foothills presented another level of difficulty, and crews were forced to use helicopters and air tankers to retard the fire's spread. Wildlife conservationists were alarmed by the thousands of animals that were being displaced as their habitats went up in flames, with many not able to flee in time. In South Carolina, meanwhile, the Table Rock Fire in Pickens County declared a state of emergency. A small fire that initially broke out suddenly grew in magnitude because of dry conditions and gusts of more than 30 miles per hour. By Saturday night, over 110 acres were burned, prompting residents around Table Rock Mountain to make preparations for potential evacuations. Governor Henry McMaster declared an emergency to mobilize extra resources, including National Guard support. Firefighters labored around the clock, but by evening, efforts had to be suspended because of poor visibility and unpredictable fire activity. During dawn, bulldozers helped excavate fire breaks, cleared areas intended to retard the spread. But the parched underbrush and powerful winds kept the fire burning, making it difficult to contain. Southeastern U.S. wildfires are increasing in frequency and severity, with the experts attributing the increases to a combination of climate change, human carelessness, and urban growth. Increased temperatures and extended droughts have left forests drier than ever before, leaving them extremely vulnerable to fires. Most of these fires are man-made, ignited by abandoned campfires, discarded cigarettes, or unauthorized burns. As urban residential areas encroach into wildfire country, the threats increase, leaving homes and businesses more at risk. With dry weather predicted to continue and the height of wildfire season yet to come, firefighters caution that additional fires could break out in the weeks to come. The Carolinas are now confronted with the hard reality that wildfires are no longer solely a Western U.S. issue. They're increasingly becoming a threat to the Southeast too. Emergency crews are still fighting the fires. Moreover, the upper Midwest was affected by a massive March 19th blizzard that brought severe weather that shut down daily life. The storm brought heavy snow at rates of 1 to 2 inches an hour, making it almost impossible to see in areas of Nebraska and southern Minnesota. Snowplows were no match as the roads became impassable in short order, leaving thousands of motorists stranded. Gusty winds ranging from 35 to 40 miles per hour made the conditions worse, with whiteout conditions making traveling very hazardous. The National Weather Service reported snow accumulations to be 6 to 9 inches in spots, with drifts accumulating even more because of the constant winds. Minneapolis and Omaha airports reported extensive delays and cancellations as emergency workers worked overnight hours to rescue drivers stranded in heavy snow. In rural Minnesota, scores of power outages were reported as ice accumulation and high winds knocked trees over onto power lines. Dozens were left in the cold, with local authorities establishing warming shelters to temporarily warm them up. The Arctic cold that followed the storm added to the challenges of recovery, with temperatures dropping well below freezing. At the same time, Texas prepared for violent weather hazards as a strong cold front moved over the state, sparking fears of tornadoes, big hail, and destructive winds. The Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area was issued a higher warning from Sunday evening through Monday morning, with meteorologists watching closely for possible tornado formation. The National Weather Service warned that the primary hazards included hail the size of golf balls, wind gusts exceeding 60 miles per hour, and the possibility of tornado formation along the advancing cold front. Emergency authorities warned citizens to be alert. Springtime storms are unstable, and things can turn on a dime. Storm chasers and meteorologists monitored the system live. They were watching closely for a rotation that might indicate a tornado. Several counties were hit with severe thunderstorm warnings in the evening. Lightning lit the sky and thunder rumbled for miles. In Austin, the cold front brought an unplanned temperature drop. It fell from the mid-70s to sub-freezing in a matter of hours. This combination of warm and cold air produced unstable weather. Therefore, heavy storm cells developed, enhancing tornado danger. Wind gusts ripped through power cables and trees. Thousands of individuals lost power, putting officials into high alarm mode. Emergency teams rushed in to assess the damage and restore power. Meanwhile, meteorologists predicted subsequent storms later in the week. Spring storms keep wreaking havoc across the U.S. A blizzard closed out the upper Midwest, with Texas bracing for storm warnings. Millions already feel the effects of shifting weather patterns. Precaution and close heeding of warnings are emphasized by experts. Tornado season has only just started, with additional storms in store. Neighborhoods were quick to act on the mounting crisis. States issued emergencies to mobilize resources and safeguard citizens. Thousands were forced to evacuate due to wildfires, while others were placed on high alert. Shelters were opened immediately for displaced families. Emergency responders worked around the clock to try to contain the fires in difficult weather. Storms in the Midwest and Texas brought school closures and safety warnings. People were warned to stay prepared and equipped with emergency items. Such tragedies reveal the power of nature. Firefighters fought fires and rescuers freed snowstorm-stuck motorists. These people's strengths cannot be questioned. Climatic trends otherwise have the potential to worsen such catastrophes in the future, however. Staying prepared, donating, and prepared in advance is necessary. Preparedness and knowledge can be the difference between safety and disaster. Stay alert and stay prepared, as every second counts in times of crisis.